So what is the garden chore that takes the most time? Well, the weeds are the one that is the biggest time guzzler. So we have several methods to reduce our weeding time for the high performance gardens. So once you learn these techniques, your weeding time will be greatly reduced. So the first one is to control the size of your garden. So in a high performance garden, the first thing we do before we ever plant a seed is create the plan. And what you need to know is, like, how many tomatoes do I need to feed my family? Do I need 20 plants? Do I need 5 plants? So once you go through and kind of figure out what the plants can produce and what your family needs, then you can start to figure out, well, what's the size of your garden? So controlling the size is really important, because if the garden is too big, then you have a lot more area to weed than you really need to weed. The next thing is to grow in superior soils. Your plants like that sandy loam soil with lots of compost. You need to get the plants in the environment that they like, not stick them in an environment that you have. So you're wanting to get some good soil, get it in a container so that your plants can grow really, really good. And what this does is, when you have a high rate of production, then you can have less plants, which makes the garden smaller, which means less weeds. The next thing is dedicated aisles. A garden can be 50% just aisles. And so what you want to do is, like we have the raised bed, we can walk all the way around this bed, that's our aisle. And to control the weeds in the aisle is totally different than what I need to do to control the weeds in the bed. So in the aisles, I can put down weed barrier, I could mow, I could rototill, I could use some organic weed spray. There's lots of things that I could do in the aisles to control the weeds. So that cuts down on your time weeding, because if 50% of the garden is aisles, there's 50% less weeding right there, because you can be way more aggressive in your aisles. The next thing that you need to do is put the food where the plants are. So if your garden has aisles and beds as opposed to just one big plot, a lot of people will go out, they'll have one big plot, they'll go out and they'll spread their compost over the entire lot. Then they come down, they put their rows and put their plants in. Well, you've now fed the aisles that are between the plants, and of course you fed the plants. But now the weeds can grow super big and strong because you just fed them. So if you have dedicated aisles, dedicated beds, then you can put the food just in the beds and not feed the aisles, so you can start to starve the weeds out. And the other thing is to mulch a lot. You're going to see us mulching this garden continually all season, and that cuts down on the weeds so much. So mulching is the last thing that we implement to control our weeds.